Hello, everybody. This is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Part 5, Chapter 27. After the professor came the lesson with his father. Seroja, while waiting for him, played with his penknife as he leaned his elbow on the desk, and he fell into new thoughts. One of his favorite occupations was to look for his mother while he was out walking. He didn't know much about death, and he didn't believe that his mother was dead, though his father and the Countess Lydia Ivanovna said she was. Every tall, graceful woman with dark hair he imagined to be his mother. At the sight of every such woman, his heart would swell with love. The tears would come into his eyes, and he would wait until the lady drew near him and raised her veil. Then he would see her face. She would kiss him, smile upon him. He would feel the sweet caress of her hand, smell the well-known perfume, and weep with joy, as he did one evening when he lay at her feet, and she tickled him, because she and he laughed so heartily, and gently bit her white hand, covered with rings. Later, when he learned accidentally from the old nurse that his mother was alive, but his father and the Countess told him that she was dead because she was a wicked woman, this seemed still more impossible to Seroja, because he loved her. And he looked for her and longed for her. This very day in the summer garden, he seen a lady in a lilac veil, and his heart beat violently when he saw her take the same footpath where he was walking. But suddenly she vanished. Seroja felt a stronger love than ever for his mother, and now, while waiting for his father, he was cutting his desk with his penknife, with shining eyes and looking straight ahead and thinking of her. "Here comes your papa," said Vasily Lukitch. Seroja jumped up from the chair, ran to kiss his father's hand, and looked for some sign of pleasure because he received the decoration. "Did you have a good walk?" asked Alexey Alexandrovitch as he sat down in an armchair and opened the Old Testament. Though he often told Seroja that every Christian ought to know the Old Testament history by heart, he often to consult it for his lessons, and the child noticed it. "Yes, Papa, I enjoyed it very much," said Seroja, sitting across his chair and tipping it. That was forbidden. "I saw Nadenka, the Countess's niece, and she told me that they've given you a new decoration. Are you glad, Papa? In the first place, don't tip your chair so, and in the second place, know that what ought to be dear to us is work itself, not the reward. If you want to understand that. If you seek only recompense, the work will seem painful, but if you love work, your recompense will come of itself." And Alexey Alexandrovitch remembered that on this very day he signed 118 different papers with no other support in the most unwelcome task than the feeling of duty. Seroja's bright and shining eyes grew gloomy as his father looked at him. He felt that his father, in speaking to him, put on a peculiar tone as though he were addressing one of those imaginary children found in books, and whom Seroja did not in the least resemble. He was used to it, and he did his best to find wherein he had anything in common with these exemplary little Malchiks. "You understand me, I hope?" "Yes, Papa," replied the lad, playing the part of his imaginary little personage. The lesson consisted of the recitation of several verses of the Gospel and the review of the first part of the Old Testament. The lesson went fairly well, but suddenly Seroja was struck by the appearance of his father's forehead, which made almost a right angle near the temples, and he gave the end of the verse entirely wrong. Alexey Alexandrovitch concluded that he didn't understand the meaning of what he was reciting, and he was vexed. He frowned and began to explain that Seroja could not have forgotten, having heard it so many times. The child, scared, looked at his father and thought only one thing. Would his father oblige him to repeat the explanation that he had given him, as he had done at other times? This fear kept him from understanding. Fortunately, his father passed on the lesson in sacred history. Seroja rapidly narrated the facts themselves, but when it came to the explanation of their meaning, he didn't know it at all, though it was part of his lesson. The place where he could not recite and was troubled, where he whittled the table and rocked the chair, was the critical moment when he had to repeat the list of antediluvial patriarchs. No one could he remember, not even Enoch, who went to heaven alive, though Enoch was his favorite character in the biblical history, and he connected with the translation of this patriarch a long string of ideas which completely absorbed him while he was staring at his father's watch chain and a loose button on his coat. Seroja absolutely disbelieved in death, though they told him about it many times. He couldn't believe that those whom he loved could die, and especially incredible was the thought of his own death. It all seemed incredible, incomprehensible, but people in whom he had confidence told him that everybody must die. The nurse herself, though unwillingly, said the same thing. But Enoch didn't die, and perhaps others might not have to die. Why didn't others deserve as much as he to go up to heaven alive? Asked Seroja. The wicked, those whom he disliked, might have to die, but the good might be like Enoch. No, how about these patriarchs? Enoch, Enos. You've already mentioned him. This is bad, Seroja, very bad. If you don't endeavor to learn the things essential for a Christian to know, what will become of you? Asked his father, getting up. I'm dissatisfied with you, and Peter Ignatitch is dissatisfied with you, so I'm compelled to punish you, son. Father and pedagogue both found fault with him, and Seroja was doubtless making bad work of it, and yet he wasn't a stupid boy. On the contrary, he was far superior to those whom his teachers held to him as examples. If he didn't want to learn what was taught him, it was because he couldn't, and for the reason that his mind had needs very different from those that his teachers imagined. He was only 9 years old. He was only a child, but he knew his soul, and he objected to anyone trying to force a way in without the key of love. He was blamed for being unwilling to learn, and yet he was all on fire with the yearning for knowledge. But he got his lessons from Kapitanowicz, his old nurse Nadenka, and Vasily Lukitch. The water which the father and pedagogue poured on the mill wheel was wasted, but the work was done in another place. Seroja was accordingly punished. He was refused permission to go see Nadenka, but this punishment turned out to be an advantage. Vasily Lukitch was in good humor and taught him the art of making a little windmill. The afternoon was spent in working and thinking of the ways and means to make the mill go. Should he fasten wings to it or fix it so he could turn it himself? He forgot about his mother all the evening, but after he got into bed, her memory suddenly came back to him, and he prayed in his own words that she might cease to veil herself and make him visit the next day. That was his birthday. Vasily Lukitch, do you know what I prayed God for? To study better? No. Toys? No. You mustn't guess. It's a secret. When it comes to pass, I'll tell you. Are you sure you don't want to know? No, you must tell me, said Vasily Lukitch, smiling, which was rare with him. No, I'm going to bed. I'm going to put out the light. I see much better than what I asked in my prayer when there isn't any light. There, I almost told my secret, cried Seroja, laughing gaily. Seroja believed that he heard his mother and felt her presence when he was in the dark. She was standing near him and looking at him tenderly with her loving face. Then he saw a mill, a knife. Then all melted into darkness, and he was asleep.